After half a century, we finally have a solution to the protein folding problem.
What an absolutely unbelievable effort from everyone. Going to all remember these moments for the rest of our lives.
I'm excited about AlphaFold. For my research, it's already propelling lots of progress. And this is just the beginning.
In 2022, a Google AI company announced something that many scientists didn't think could exist: a database containing more than 200 million biological structures. What's noteworthy is that previously humanity had spent more than 50 years of research to collect less than 200,000. In other words, in a very short time, an AI system created an amount of data more than 1,000 times larger than what the scientific community had accumulated over half a century. Not everyone believed it. Some called this the biggest breakthrough in modern biology. Others said it had changed the way science is done. And the strangest thing is, DeepMind, the company behind this achievement, isn't even a biology company. So how did they do it? And why did this discovery make many researchers believe that AI could open a completely new era of scientific discovery? Continue to follow to clarify. To understand what happened in 2022, we first need to talk about the person behind DeepMind. His name is Demis Hassabis. If you look at Hassabis' profile, you'll see a rather strange combination. He was a chess prodigy from a young age, then participated in developing video games, before moving on to neuroscience research and artificial intelligence. It seems everything in his career revolves around one single question: what makes intelligence? In 2010, Hassabis, along with Shane Legg and Mustafa Suleyman, founded DeepMind in London. At that time, the idea of building general artificial intelligence was still considered too far-fetched by many. However, this research group believed that if a machine could learn to understand the world like humans, it would not only solve computer problems, but also help solve the biggest problems in science. In 2014, Google acquired DeepMind for about $500 million. This deal attracted attention in the tech world, but no one really understood what Google had just bought. The answer appeared 2 years later. In 2016, AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol, one of the greatest Go players in history. For many AI experts, this was a landmark moment. Previously, Go was considered too complex for computers. The number of possible moves is greater than the number of atoms in the observable universe. No one thought an AI system could reach that level so early. But what amazed researchers was not AlphaGo's victory. It was how it won. In the second game, AlphaGo made move 37. This move was so strange that many professional commentators thought it was a mistake. Then a few hours later, they realized they were wrong. AlphaGo did not play the way humans had thought. It found a completely different approach. That was the moment DeepMind began to ask a much bolder question. If AI could discover strategies that the world's top players had never thought of, could it find rules that scientists had still overlooked? Instead of continuing to focus on games, DeepMind decided to direct its technology toward real-world problems. And among the many options, they targeted a goal that researchers had been pursuing for more than half a century. A mystery at the heart of modern biology. A problem so difficult that many believed it would take another few decades to have a chance to solve it. So, exactly what did DeepMind aim for? It wasn't cancer. It wasn't Alzheimer's. It wasn't any specific disease either. Instead, they decided to attack a problem that lies deeper than all of those. A problem that many scientists call the protein folding problem. It may not sound too impressive at first, but this is where the story gets interesting. Imagine the human body as a giant city with tens of trillions of residents. For the city to function, countless workers are needed to work continuously. Cargo transporters, repair engineers, cleaning staff, security forces, emergency rescue teams. In our bodies, those workers are proteins. Hemoglobin carries oxygen throughout the body. Insulin controls blood sugar levels. Antibodies hunt down viruses and bacteria. Collagen helps skin, tendons, and bones maintain their structure. Almost every activity of life involves proteins. But the strange thing is that proteins do not function because of their composition. They function because of their shape. A protein can be thought of as an extremely long string made up of amino acids linked together. When it is just created inside the cell, this string is almost useless. It must fold itself into a highly precise three-dimensional structure, just a slight deviation, and its function can disappear completely. To make it easier to visualize, think of a sheet of paper, the same sheet of paper. If spread flat, it's just an ordinary piece of paper. But if folded the right way, it can become a paper airplane. Folded differently, it can become a crane. The material doesn't change. What changes is the shape. Proteins are the same. The problem is that no one knows exactly how they find their final shape. This is what has given the scientific community a headache for many decades. In 1969, biochemist Cyrus Levinthal made a famous calculation. He pointed out that if a protein tried every possible way of folding to find the correct shape, it would take longer than the age of the universe. Yet inside the human body, this process usually happens in just a few seconds, sometimes even in a few thousandths of a second. That means proteins are not trying randomly, they are following some rule. But what is that rule? That is the mystery. For more than half a century, researchers tried to find the answer using the most advanced technologies they had. They used X-rays to look at molecular structures. They built extremely complex magnetic resonance systems. They developed cryo-electron microscopes costing tens of millions of dollars. Sometimes it took many years just to determine the structure of a single protein. By 2020, after more than 50 years of research, the Protein Data Bank, the world's largest repository of protein structures, had recorded only about 170,000 structures determined by experiments. It sounds like a lot, but scientists estimate that nature may contain hundreds of millions, even billions of different types of proteins. The gap between what humans know and what remains unknown is still enormous. That was when DeepMind stepped in. For more than half a century, most researchers approached this problem in the same direction. They tried to observe proteins. The more detailed, the better. The more accurate, the better. If they wanted to know what a protein looked like, they would put it in the laboratory, use expensive equipment, collect data, and gradually reconstruct the structure. It was like trying to understand how every airplane in the world works by disassembling each one individually. This method was effective, but too slow. DeepMind decided to try a completely different direction. Instead of studying each individual protein, they asked a bigger question. What if there is a common rule behind all proteins? If they could find that rule, they wouldn't need to solve each problem one by one anymore. They would only need to understand the principle. And that is exactly what AlphaFold was created to search for. To achieve this, DeepMind let its system be exposed to the Protein Data Bank, or PDB. This is the world's largest repository of protein structures. Each structure in it is the result of many years of research, millions of dollars invested, and countless hours of laboratory work. It can be said to be the collective record of the biology community over many decades. AlphaFold began learning from all that data. But the important thing is that no one programmed it in advance to know how proteins should fold. There was no secret list of rules entered into the system. No scientist sat down to write each formula to guide the AI. Instead, AlphaFold was asked to do one simple thing: observe, compare, and find connections that humans might have overlooked. This was also the philosophy that once helped AlphaGo defeat the world's greatest players. When studying chess games, AlphaGo did not just learn to imitate humans. It discovered tactics that no one had thought of before. DeepMind hoped something similar could happen with biology. And then the first signals began to appear. After analyzing hundreds of thousands of known structures, AlphaFold predicted more and more accurately. Instead of just recognizing simple patterns, the system began to understand the complex relationships between amino acid sequences and the final shape of proteins. In other words, it was no longer just memorizing data. It began to learn the language of proteins. However, inside DeepMind there was still a big question. Did AlphaFold really understand something about biology? Or was it just remembering examples it had seen? No one knew the answer because there was only one way to verify it. Put this system in front of completely new proteins, structures that had never appeared in any database. A fair test. A test that the entire biology community was watching. Its name was CASP. In the molecular biology community, CASP is considered the gold standard for evaluating protein structure prediction capabilities. Every 2 years, the organizers collect proteins that have just been determined by experiments but have not been publicly disclosed. Participants only receive the amino acid sequence, with no knowledge of the final answer. Their task is to reconstruct the most accurate three-dimensional structure possible before the real results are revealed. What makes this competition special is that no one can memorize data or rely on pre-existing information. Everyone must face cases that have never appeared before. This is the closest test to the question that researchers care about most: whether a system really understands the essence of the problem or simply recognizes familiar patterns. In 2018, DeepMind's research team participated for the first time. The achievement was impressive enough to attract attention, but not enough to end the debate. In science, a good result is sometimes just luck. To change the perspective of an entire field, more is needed. 2 years later, that opportunity came. CASP14 began in 2020. This time, early evaluators noticed something unusual in the results table. DeepMind's system's predictions continuously achieved accuracy far beyond most competitors. The gap was so large that the question was no longer who would come first, but how close this system was approaching the limit. To measure accuracy, the organizers used the GDT scale. For many years, researchers viewed the 90-point mark as a special milestone because it approached the accuracy of experimental methods. Surpassing that threshold meant the prediction model nearly reproduced the real structure in three-dimensional space. The final result stunned many people. AlphaFold's average score reached about 92.4. The number may sound small next to a scale of 100, but in the context of this field, it was a giant leap. After decades of slow progress, the remaining gap suddenly narrowed in just one appearance. John Molt, a professor at the University of Maryland and the founder of CASP, made a statement that caused a big stir. According to him, the problem of protein structure prediction had basically been solved. That was a rare statement. Scientists are usually very cautious when talking about problems that have existed for decades. Therefore, when one of the most influential people in the field drew such a conclusion, the entire community had to pay attention. However, the most astonishing thing was not the ranking or the score achieved. What made many people think was how this achievement appeared. While laboratories around the world spent decades studying each individual case, an AI system approached the problem from a completely different angle and found rules strong enough to accurately predict a series of previously unseen structures. That was the moment many researchers realized they were not just witnessing a new tool. A new way of doing science was forming right before their eyes. And what happened next went far beyond the CASP competition. Victory at CASP14 helped DeepMind prove one important thing. Their system really had the ability to predict protein structures with unprecedented accuracy. But after reaching that milestone, the research team faced a choice. They could keep this technology to themselves, continue developing commercial products, sell access to pharmaceutical companies, or go in a completely different direction. In the end, they chose the second option. In July 2022, DeepMind collaborated with the European Bioinformatics Institute under EMBL, also known as EMBLEBI, to announce the AlphaFold protein structure database. The project's goal was very simple. If AI already had the ability to predict protein structures, why stop at a few thousand or a few tens of thousands of cases? Why not expand the scale to everything modern science can access? The result was one of the largest biological databases ever built. More than 200 million structures were released free of charge to the global research community. To understand the scale of this number, let's go back to a not-too-distant time. Before AlphaFold, the Protein Data Bank, which stores the research achievements of many generations of scientists, only contained about 190,000 structures determined by experiments. That number had taken more than half a century to accumulate. AlphaFold increased the amount of available data by about 1,000 times. If we compare knowledge about proteins to a map of the world, previously we had only seen the first coastline outlines. Now, most of the continent has appeared before our eyes. The impact of this quickly spread. Malaria research groups used the database to understand the mechanism of the parasite. Scientists studying antibiotic resistance began analyzing proteins that were previously almost inaccessible. Many laboratories developing new drugs also used this data repository to shorten the time to search for treatment targets. Of course, AlphaFold did not cure cancer. It did not create miracle drugs, and it did not solve all of biology's problems. A predicted structure still needs to be verified by experiments in many cases. Science does not change overnight, but what has changed is the speed. Questions that once took many months to even begin researching can now be approached in just a few hours. Targets that were previously almost beyond observation now become readily available data for any laboratory with an internet connection. That is why many scientists do not view AlphaFold simply as a new tool. They see it as a shift in the entire research method. For most of history, humans collected data first and then tried to find the rules. This time, an AI system was assigned the task of finding the rules first, then helping to expand the amount of data that science can access. Perhaps that is the most remarkable thing in the entire story. AlphaFold does not prove that machines are smarter than humans. It shows what can happen when humans and artificial intelligence solve the same problem in completely different ways. And if a problem that had troubled the biology community for more than 50 years could finally be accelerated thanks to AI, the next question almost naturally arises. How many other secrets are lying in the enormous data repositories that humanity has collected over many decades? How many rules are still present right before our eyes, but no one has realized it? Because very possibly, the story of AlphaFold is not the end. It is only the first time we have seen a new type of scientist appear. A scientist who does not work in a laboratory, does not hold a microscope, does not wear a white lab coat, but exists in the form of artificial intelligence. In your opinion, in the future, will AI have the ability to create scientific discoveries that no scientist has ever thought of, or not? Please leave your opinion in the comments section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to follow more stories. Thank you for watching.